Jenny Bowen. I currently serve as Executive Director with the Community Builders Network. We are a coalition of community building organizations that essentially exist to support and connect and celebrate neighborhoods across the St. Louis region and the folks that serve those neighborhoods. This was tough, actually. There were some good quotes on this list. But the one I ended up thinking the most about was "Well-Behaved Women Seldom Make History" from Laurel Thatcher. It's kind of ironic because I've been a rule follower most of my life in a system that's more or less usually worked out okay for me. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. My parents sometimes used to lob that quote from It's a Wonderful Life at me, George, you were born older kind of thing. I'm not a risk taker, or I wasn't a risk taker anyway, as much when I was younger. I was a straight A student, in tons of extracurriculars, all that stuff. And as a white person who grew up in the white suburban Midwest, I didn't really start to understand until college and beyond the extent to which those rules that I'd learned to follow so well that sort of govern the life and society of our country were really mostly just written to serve white people and white men in particular, but obviously it's important to acknowledge that many white women accumulate lots of power and privilege based on their proximity to white men. So I've grown over the past decade or so to understand much better how important it is to systematically misbehave in a broken system that really is only built to serve one type of person. It's really, really critical that we all break rules and demand better every single day, because the rules that govern the system that we live in are rules that are oppressing and exploiting Black and brown people. And that's especially important for white people, and especially important for those of us who have learned to thrive in this system. Perhaps because we know it really well, we just need to learn how to break it down and become comfortable with being uncomfortable. This was an interesting question, and what I ended up thinking about a lot was that I think popular understanding of what leaders look like and how leaders act is largely based on patriarchy and white supremacy, white culture, and it favors hierarchy and consolidation of power and consolidation of resources. And the thing I end up thinking about a lot, I think, in this work is that not everyone leads this way. And I think personally that the future of leadership is going to look very different, and in many ways already looks very different. And sometimes it can feel really hard to embody and promote these sort of alternative forms of leadership when the world doesn't always recognize, understand, or embrace those forms of leadership. Circling back sort of more pointedly to your question, I guess, I feel like my acculturation as a woman informs in some ways differing feelings about what leadership can and should look like, that it should and can be distributed and shared, that it can be based on strong teams and leaders that step up and step back at different times and in different roles based on their strengths and necessity, and sort of what the situation calls for and what the team needs, and not just an acquired title. Obviously someone always needs to be around to guide and make tough decisions when those can't always be made by a group, but I think that presuming that any of us, regardless of our official leadership title, can do that alone or in a vacuum, stifles all of our collective potential. I would say one of the most important things I think I've learned along the way in this work is that it is so critical to listen to what your teammates bring to the table. And moreover, not just listen, but integrate that into your organization's work and practice. I really deeply believe we all have different experiences and perspectives that make us uniquely qualified to see things that others might not. And the more open we can all be to discussion and diverging perspectives, the stronger and more adaptable our teams will be. And as a sidebar, one of the things I'm not always very good at this, but one thing I think is really good advice is to try to do something every day that scares you. Summer Martinez, Employment Connection CEO, serves on Community Builders Network's board of directors, has for some time. So he invited me to participate, and this sounded like an interesting project, a great way to be part of an interesting ongoing conversation. And your team is obviously doing great work, so I appreciate the invitation to talk with you a little bit